Joining us now, a guy who could offer some insight on that and many other things, the managing editor of Campus Insiders and publisher of collegefootballnews.com is Pete Fiutak. Pete, welcome to BYU Sports Nation.
What's going on, guys?
How many different college football team previews have you written or reviewed in the past 3 months?
A lot, and I'm just coming up to the end record time and getting them done this year. But yes, I get about 75 of them. Some of the other guys we do spread it out to the other ones. But yes, I get the main ones, and I get to do BYU.
And you have done BYU, one that we recently read. And from your 2015 preview of the Cougars, I got this underlying tone from you, Pete, that it's kind of New Year's Six or bust for the Cougars. Is it New Year's Six or bust?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, and that's the world of being an independent for BYU. It's a different thing for Army at this point. Notre Dame is Notre Dame, and that's just again a whole different thing for the Irish in terms of national attention and what that is, because that's just a big monster of its own. But if you're BYU and you're not a part of the Pac-12, you're not in the Mountain West, there's no conference championship to play for. So basically your season is hinged on hoping that you come up with something truly magical and get into the playoff or one of the big massive New Year's Six bowls of somehow. But the problem is they're got the contractual tie-ins to Las Vegas or Hawaii if everything else falls through, and that's not exactly the carrot at the end of the stick that you want to keep fighting for if you lose a game or two early on.
Pete Fiutak of Campus Insiders with us on BYU Sports Nation. Now, and I'm going to quote your article. You said 2 losses and the season is effectively over. And, of course, that deals with what you just said. But this is probably the toughest schedule that BYU has ever faced top to bottom. So even if they lose 2 games, can they still not attain some national respect, and by that I mean like a top 15 ranking, even if they lost a couple of games?
Oh yeah, they could do that, but so what? It doesn't matter. I mean, unless you're shooting for something, tangible, like a trophy of some sort, or a chance at the playoff, or a championship of some point. All right, so you finish the season ranked 11th, or you finish the season ranked 17th, or none of that really matters at the end of the day. It does to fans to some extent, and it's nice, and but the whole point of everything is if you're a college team, if you're a player, you want to have something that you're going after. You want some sort of thing that you want to fight for. It's all about championships. It's all about trying to win games, and there is that to a point. But let's say you lose to Nebraska and Boise State in the first 2 games of the year, then the rest of the season basically is an exhibition season. I mean, even if you're in the Sun Belt, even if you're in the MAC, even if you're in any conference, at least it's something to be able to go after a conference title and get the T-shirt and all that. And that's kind of it's sort of apples and oranges a little bit, but it's a little bit of a motivational factor that sort of makes the season something more to play for.
Now, wait, are you saying that a Sun Belt championship, or let's say even a Mountain West Conference championship, is greater than finishing in the top 15 national rankings?
It depends on what you want, and it's not necessarily. Obviously, you want to be ranked high, but again, who cares? Yes, in the history books, you're put down on a certain spot, and that's fine. But again, do you have any clue, who were the top 15 teams of last year, or of 2 years ago or 4 years ago? And, yes, you can make the same argument, okay, who is the, 2013 Sun Belt champion? Okay, whatever. But for the fan bases of a place, you're looking for, what's fun about a season. It's fun to be able to say we were the champion of something, and for a team, and especially if you're a player, you want to fight for that kind of thing. You want to be able to shoot for that, and you can have. It's not an either-or situation. You can finish if you were a BYU and you were in the Mountain West. You could win a Mountain West championship and finish in the top 15.
Now, looking at December, I consider 2-2. Based on the level of difficulty of those teams we're facing, 2-2 to me is a success. Now, let's say we lose 2 games. You're the head coach at BYU, or you're one of the players. What's your mindset? Now, so to you, there's nothing else to play for. What would you tell your team? What would you tell your teammates?
Well, the nothing else to play for aside, you do have fun games. I mean, Cincinnati is a good team. It might be the best team in the American Athletic Conference. I mean, good looking up for Wagner, but like you do get to play Missouri at a big stadium in Kansas City, and you do have some big games against Fresno State and Utah State, which have that Mountain West feel. And you do want to still go get the wins for a bowl game, but. Yeah, again, though, it's like, all right, so, are you playing for a title? You're just kind of playing a series of games. You're just playing a bunch of games as opposed to being a part of something. And, that works for some places. Again, if you're Notre Dame's a different sort of place. But otherwise, that's why a lot of programs like being a part of a conference because, you want to kind of have that camaraderie a little bit. You want to know that you're a part of a league and you're fighting for a championship of some sort.
Pete Fiutak, the managing editor of Campus Insiders and publisher of collegefootballnews.com, joining us on BYU Sports Nation. Pete, you brought up Notre Dame. I know that the Fighting Irish have the 5-game tie-in year in and year out with the ACC, and they have access to the ACC bowl games, and they can go to the Orange Bowl, I think, twice in 12 years or something like that. So it's different for the Irish, but really, if they lose 2 or 3 games, are they that much different than BYU?
No, because only the fact that they are shooting for a bigger, better bowl game than BYU is going to be tied into. I mean, it's BYU, so if you're going to Las Vegas or you're going to Hawaii, you're not necessarily going to take advantage of the really fun stuff that make Vegas and Hawaii. But it's you're going into these minor level bowl games. But you're right, it's the same sort of thing. If you're Notre Dame and you lose 3 games, you're not going into a big time bowl game. But again, Notre Dame's just a different animal. It's just while BYU has the massive national fan base, Notre Dame versus USC, Notre Dame at Stanford. I mean, those are such big, huge games, that just take up the national focus. And that's not saying BYU versus Missouri won't. It certainly will. But if BYU is 4-3 at some point, all of a sudden that any game that comes late really just doesn't take on that big time significance.
Speaking of Vegas, odds makers set BYU's over/under win total at 8.5. I want to know, how many games do you have BYU winning in 2015?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Again, you look at the schedule, 8.5 means you're beating a Michigan, or you're beating a Cincinnati, or you're beating a Fresno State or Utah State. And so, you look at their schedule, obviously Wagner is the one that's the real dud of the bunch. And, San Jose State's not great, but they're better, and UConn stinks. But, there are probably 9 teams on there that might go bowling, at the very least. So, it's a very, very good, fun schedule. So, on that level, and there's something to play for away, it's a fun season. It's a fun slate. You're not playing a bunch of really bad teams week in and week out. So it is an interesting slate to do. And, to take this another step, look at this, this is the way athletic directors try to look at it sometimes. What if they do beat Nebraska? Nebraska's got a new head coach. They're still trying to figure it out. It's not the Nebraska of, 1995 or anything like that.
Certainly not.
And so let's say they pull that off. Boise State's fantastic. Boise State's going to probably win the Mountain West title. They get everyone back on offense except Jay, and they got to figure out their quarterback situation. We get 9 starters back. So that's a very, very good team. But that game's in Provo. It's not an unwinnable game by any stretch for BYU. UCLA's the killer. I think UCLA is the best team on the schedule by far. That is I think they're going to win the Pac-12 and go into the playoff. But they're going to start a new quarterback, and they were flaky last year. They never played up to their talent level. Michigan, that's still a program trying to figure it out, even with Jim Harbaugh, even with it. So on the surface, you look at these teams, you're like, oh my gosh, forget about it. But what if they do go 3-1? What if they go 4-0? It's not crazy, considering what, oh gosh, BYU can't beat Texas, and they wouldn't, blew them out of the water the last couple of years. So, let's say everyone stays healthy, and let's say somehow by some miracle BYU's 4-0 coming out of September, and then things ease up a little bit. If you can go 4-0 doing that, all of a sudden the national attention spins the other way. Like, wait a minute here, look at this team. They're 4-0, and if you maybe lose to Missouri but win the rest of those games, is 11-1 good enough to get in the playoff? At least at that point, you're in the discussion.
Pete Fiutak of collegefootballnews.com on BYU Sports Nation. We'll end with this, Pete. when you look at the schedules that BYU is lining up with the efforts of Tom Homo, the athletic director, this year, we've mentioned the crazy September, throw in Missouri in November and Cincinnati. Then in 2016, it just is off the charts difficult. Arizona, West Virginia, Boise State, UCLA, Mississippi State, Michigan State. Are these schedules making BYU more nationally relevant?
Yeah, because they're out there. I mean, because they're playing those games, but they're nationally relevant if they win them. You know, if they win some of these games. You know, if this is an 8-4, BYU team, then it's kind of not that big a deal. You know, but I don't. On the flip side, I don't know why you would schedule BYU. I don't know why any of these big programs. I guess it counts as sort of like that one big game you're going to play on your schedule. You know, along with the Savannah States of the world that you're going to put on there. But it's a no-win situation for a lot of these teams because you could, the college basketball argument, you could certainly lose to BYU, and if you win, BYU's probably going to be 8-4, so it's not like you're getting a ton of national recognition for it. But some athletic directors, some programs are doing it, and if you're not going to be in a conference and you're trying to make yourself big on a national scale, well, then play a big national schedule, and there might not be a Mountain West title at the end of the rainbow here for BYU, but playing Missouri is kind of fun. Playing Fresno State and Utah State, two of the better Mountain West teams, is pretty interesting around there. So at the very least, it's a very good schedule, even if the bowl tie-ins aren't that great.
Pete, thanks for the time today. We appreciate your insight, and we'll talk to you again in the near future.
Thanks, Pete.
No problem. Have a good one, guys.